All right. Hey, my friends, and welcome to today's episode where I want to talk about just a central mindset shift when it comes to really recovering from the stress and anxiety loop and really breaking free from OCD, panic attacks, anxiety, chronic pain, right? These loops that can sustain for long, long, long periods of time. So before I dive in, real quick, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Matt Codde. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the founder of Restored Minds. And if you're looking for help and guidance on your path to recovery, I have some links down in the notes for you to check out with some great resources, or you can head over to restoredminds.com. And also, if you benefit from this show, please help us out real quick by liking, subscribing, and leaving a nice review. So let's go into this. And I thought about this today when I was driving into the office. You know, there are certain parallels I see where people who really, really want to get better, and then there's people who really just don't like what they're experiencing that day. And these are two different lanes when it comes to one's recovery, right? Because if you just don't like what you're experiencing, you're going to do kind of mild to moderate effort to make some incremental improvements in your life. And so, you'll try something for a little bit, you'll halfway commit to something. In the moment you start to see an uptick in your energy or symptoms or decrease in symptoms for a bit, it's like, okay, everything's good. And I'm just going to go back to how I was doing things. And, you really have to see this in the same context of like an all or nothing kind of play. And I thought about this because I worked for, a couple of years in the field of drug addiction. And, specifically I worked for about 6 months in a men's adult residential facility. And, having not wrestled with drug addiction myself, I really took an app to like learn like, okay, like what is it that really makes someone get better and stay sober over the long period of time. And the number one thing that I heard people say when I was like, hey, like what got you sober and what helped you stay sober is they really had to reach a place in their life where they were just like, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want the ups and downs of this life. I don't enjoy the spikes from the high or getting drunk. The consequences are too severe. And I just I looked at my life and it was like, hey, you know what? I'm just done. Like I'm not doing this anymore. And I think about my own recovery when it comes to, the stress and anxiety loop and how that path went. And definitely I reached a certain similar place where I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like I'm just not living like this anymore. And I'm going to figure out what needs to be done. I'm going to do it to its fullest capacity. And I don't care what that road means. I know I'm not going on this path anymore. And what I found is that a lot of people that deal with OCD, anxiety, chronic pain, panic attacks, right, social anxiety, like any manifestation really of the stress and anxiety loop, there's this big difference between someone who doesn't like the symptoms that they're experiencing today and someone who really is like, I'm really not going to live like this anymore. And I'm not saying that people in the first lane can't improve and can't get better. Like, of course, you can do things to help yourself. But for someone to truly recover, I've found this pattern that the person just really needs to be at this inner place of like, I'm done with this and I'm not going back to it ever again. Because if you aren't in that place, you kind of justify leaving it around. You're like, yeah, you know what? I understand that I need to get rid of my compulsions, but I'm not going to get rid of these compulsions. And, I'm actually doing better today. So I'm kind of going to just take today off. And, I'm going to do this. And I know it's not healthy. And you justify and justify and justify. And all of a sudden you have this huge flare up or you fall into a loop and then panic and look for help. But then once the thing's miled out, it's kind of like, okay, throw everything in the wayside, go back to what I was doing. Where recovery is like, I know that what I'm doing is creating this. I know that I am the one creating this loop. You take full responsibility for it at some point. You decide like, look, I'm not going to put this on anything else outside of me. Like I am the one that is going in and doing these mental compulsions. I'm the one that's doing the physical compulsions. So I know I have this role that I'm perpetuating this loop. And eventually the loop gets so bad that it just occupies your day. And that's just your life eventually, where it's just, from the moment you wake up to the moment you go to bed, like fear is somehow involved. Either it's you have to maintain a certain routine so you don't trigger the fear, or you can't do certain things in your life anymore because of the fear, or fear just starts tacking on new fear and new what if thoughts that all of a sudden you have to think about and ruminate, and eventually you're just spending your whole day like this. And for a lot of people, the unfortunate thing is they usually have to get to the place where they're like, I'm done, and I like and I'm just really ready to fully dive in to whatever I need to do to really get back my life, really take back control of my life. And I've found that mindset right there of being done, when you really are internally at that place, is a catalyst for massive change. Now, it doesn't need to be, mind you. I'm not saying that has to be the thing, but I do think that you have to have that, like, I'm not going to coexist with this anymore. Like, you can be like, look, I'm really tired of this. Like, and so to whatever the question ultimately becomes, like, how much do you need to give to fear for you finally to get fed up to the point where you're going to take it all back? Or how much are you going to let it run your life? Or how much, like, where does your life have to get to where you're going to draw the line and say no more? That's ultimately the question. I think is an important thing to sit with, because if you can't really go half in on this, it has to be like, I am not allowing fear any part of my life and to control any part of my life. And that is a very much a declarative stance, right? It's like, imagine if you were it's kind of like, you think of anything else, right? Whether it's drug addiction, if you're enslaved to a certain addiction, it's kind of like you have to certainly, draw a line that says, hey, I'm not using this anymore. This is, I don't have a healthy relationship with this. This is ruining the life that I want to have. And you draw a line in the sand. You say no more. If you were in a toxic relationship, at a certain point, you have to literally draw a line and say, this relationship is over. You don't like allow the relationship to keep going kind of and let it grow in again. It's like you draw a declarative stance. And that's the same thing here. Like, you have to get to the point. And for you, it's like you can have this internal realization right now while you're listening or watching this. It's like you can have that realization of, like, look back at your life of how much fear is taken and say, you know what, this has taken this much for me. And if I keep doing, it's going to take more, or at the very least stay where it is. And it limits my ability to live the life that I really want to live. And you know what? I've just decided I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm not going to allow that anymore. And for some people, things need to really get to the place where you don't have any other option but to say no. And the point of this episode today, the point of this whole message is simply, at the center of your recovery needs to be your mindset that I am not allowing this to run the show anymore. Like, I'm done and I am taking back control of my life. Not, hey, I kind of don't like this symptom, I want to get rid of it, and then once it's gone, go back to what I was doing. It's like, you have to really understand that this is really limiting the way that I can experience my time on this earth. And I'm not going to allow for that limitation anymore. And have that internal conviction that is like, I am committing to that stance. That right there, when you bring that into your recovery process, is what is really going to help you be successful on a different level than someone who's kind of bringing in a 1 foot in, 1 foot out approach. So just wanted to share that today. I hope this was helpful. Hope it kind of gets some thoughts going and stirs up some thinking on your end. And with that, again, hope you have a great day and a great week, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Hey there, thanks so much for watching that episode. If you found it helpful, we have some links to some other episodes that we think you might like as well. And if you're looking for help on your journey to recovery from fear, stress, and anxiety, either check out the links in the notes or head over to restoredminds.com. Thank you, and talk to you soon.